For the past 9 years, one game has taken the world by storm. It alone inspired many others to create games, music, and even movies. It shaped the very internet we dive into every day. With millions of fans behind this game. Why did it take 8 years for a movie to get made about this game? That's right, I'm talking about the Lego Five Nights at Freddy's. After years of waiting, in a few days, the movie is finally coming out. But why did it take so long? Many things happened. Believe me. Many things. But that's for later. First, how did this all start? Back in the day, there was this guy named Scott. He liked making fun Christian games for children, but reviews were not good. Most said that the characters didn't look friendly, but they looked scary. Almost like something from a Stephen King movie, one might say. This kinda ticked him off a little bit. He might have even said something like, "You want scary? I'll show you scary." And then he made Five Nights at Freddy's, to more success than most people can ever even dream of. In 2015, 1 year after Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and sometime before the sequel, Scott would announce something no one saw coming. A Five Nights at Freddy's movie, coming from everyone's favorite studio, Warner Brothers. God, you just gotta love them, right? They've never done anything bad. They've never done anything that made people mad at all. This movie had Gil Keenan as director. He has made such classics as City of Ember, A Boy Called Christmas, and Airman. He also made, Poltergeist 2015, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and Monster House as well, but basically no one knows those movies, so it doesn't really matter. Not only that, but the plan was to make it a trilogy, which seemed to stick later on, but back then things were looking great. We even got these fantastic behind-the-scenes photos of animatronics that would show up in the movie. Nothing big like Freddy, just like, the skeleton of Freddy. Then it all went dark. After 2 years from the original announcement, the worst was revealed. Scott said the movie was back to square one. After many delays, setbacks, and some stuff with the movie industry as a whole, the movie needed to be redone. But a bad thing this was not. He would from now on be 100% involved in this new version, so the movie could be perfect for the fans of the series. Just like me. He also mentioned that 2017 would be a great year for the movie. Well...
Oh, you bitch. How could you fucking film me? I know you're filming, you bitch. Technology. Ugh.
In early 2018, Scott finally gave us some good news about the movie. At least good news in my opinion. Warner Brothers was no longer making the FNAF movie. Blumhouse has taken over the project. Now, Blumhouse is a very interesting studio. It's on the younger side with only being 23 years old, and the studio tends to focus on horror movies. They've made some horror classics such as Get Out, Megan, The Invisible Man, Freaky, Paranormal Activity, The Black Phone, Totally Killer, Halloween 2019, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, Split, Happy Death Day 1 and 2, all the Insidious movies, and both Sinister movies. But they've also made some not-so-good movies, like The Gallows 1 and 2, Ouija, Fantasy Island, Firestarter, Truth or Dare, The Visitor, The Exorcist Believer, some of the Amityville movies, They/Them, The Green Inferno, Black Christmas 2019, Halloween Kills and Ends, in some people's opinions, You Should Have Left, Dashcam, and The Craft Legacy. Although I would be lying if I said I didn't like most of those bad movies. Not all, but most. I'm looking at you two. But I trust Blumhouse to make a FNAF movie that I will enjoy. One thing some people might get worried about with Blumhouse is the fact that they make their movies on the cheap. But if you're worried about that, I don't think you've ever seen any of their movies. Do they make them on the cheap? Yes. Do they look bad? No. The movies look great. With this new studio, the movie finally got the fresh start Scott wanted for it. And with that, we would get more and more news as the movie started to get made. Soon after Blumhouse took the wheel on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, they got the Christopher Columbus on board to direct. With a big name like him on board, the excitement for this movie went from 0 to 100 extremely fast. But that's just with the people who didn't know FNAF, or, the FNAF fans. It was always at 100. While the wait for the FNAF movie to come out was nowhere close to being over, a little movie called The Banana Splits came out. The Banana Splits was a live children's TV show back in the 60s. It was basically a mix of a game show and Barney. The show only ran for 2 seasons, but years later, in the great year of 2019, Warner Brothers decided they had to make some money off of this rejected FNAF script, so they changed it to the Banana Splits horror movie, with a lot of gore, a lot of cheesy dialogue, just to make a generally fun movie to watch. And it came out on the Sci-Fi Channel, just like Sharknado. It changed the people in suits to animatronics, but it still looked like people in suits, because it was. The kills are gory and sometimes unique. The story is nothing special, but it works with the silly premise. As a Banana Splits horror reboot, it's fine. But if Warner Brothers did a FNAF movie like this, I can see why Scott moved over to Blumhouse. But the Banana Splits wasn't the only FNAF-like movie to come out. There is another. And this one stars Nicolas Cage. It's called Willy's Wonderland. And while definitely inspired by FNAF, it's not a ripoff. It feels more like a fan game than anything else, but as a movie. It takes place in a town in which a murder spree happened at Willy's Wonderland. Very similar to, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. But right before the cops get to the murderers, they ritually off themselves and become the animatronics through satanic cult magic? Now, years later, the town has to trick people to go and work at Willy's to satisfy the killer animatronics' bloodlust, or else they will hunt down the townspeople. Nicolas Cage rolls in one day and gets tricked into working at Willy's Wonderland, but unknown to the people and the animatronics, he is very much not defenseless. Kinda looks easy to kill them after watching Cage work his magic. If you like Nicolas Cage and FNAF, definitely give this movie a chance. And yes, Nicolas Cage does not talk throughout the entire movie. But that wasn't because of money or anything, that was the choice of the director. And Nicolas Cage literally fought the studio to keep that choice. Very fun movie, I would recommend it. In 2020, Scott made a post on Reddit called Bad News About the FNAF Movie. The beginning read, "Hi everyone. Before we get to the bad news concerning the state of Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I wanted to share a brief history of the FNAF screenplay. It's been a long road, so let's take a look at some of the screenplays that have come and gone over the years, in no particular order. Or feel free to skip to the end real quickly to see the bad news, and then come back and enjoy the list. Some of these came from big studios, some from big directors, some from me, and some from other hired writers. I gave the screenplays a name and included a brief synopsis, as well as what ultimately led to the screenplay being rejected. The first script was nicknamed the F script. This had some teens breaking into Freddy's and, well, I think you know what happens next. So why was this not used? Well, apparently by the end, the group would have ended up in a secret underground animatronic factory that was designing robots for the government. That's definitely not FNAF. Scott's verdict was, what the f***? Strayed too far away from the source material. Tossed. The next script was called Plushies Take Manhattan. That's an idea, I guess. The verdict was burned with fire. The Random Charlie script was about Charlie and friends sneaking into Freddy's after hours to retrieve a lost toy. Whose toy is it? He did not tell us. This is very important, Scott. Reveal the information. Whose toy was it? This one had many names from the games, but they were not the people from the games. By the end, Scott said that it felt like a random bag of FNAF elements with no real stakes. Meh. The Silver Eye scripts would probably work out better as a show than a movie, as most book adaptations tend to do. As you have probably guessed by now, it would have been an adaptation of the first book of the FNAF book trilogy. Apparently both Scott and Kyrie, she's the person who co-wrote the FNAF books, worked on different scripts, but they did not turn out too good. Scott ultimately decided that an adaptation of the games would just work better overall. Now we get to the pawn shop script, which also was kinda interesting. Don't really want to see it get made though. The setup was that a kid who watches after a pawn shop finds trouble when an animatronic is brought in. It turns out that Freddy's has been robbed, and the animatronics were taken to different locations for sale. The other animatronics come to retrieve the one at the pawn shop, and the kid and his friends get roped into the adventure. Scott decided that this was too much of a kid and his robots adventure movie than a horror movie, which I agree on. Then there is probably the script that would make a lot of people happy. It was called the Cassidy script. Here's my explanation of it. Lore, 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 and even more lore. I'll let Scott explain this more. Spanning multiple time periods, following multiple characters, and featuring lore from multiple games. This was pretty saturated to a fault. It may have been satisfying to the most hardcore fans, but it would have left the majority of people confused and lost. Hey, wait. Maybe this was the most accurate screenplay. Although, as he said, it's probably good for longtime fans, most people would have probably not liked this movie. The Misfit Kid was also a simple script like the F script. A single mom moves to a new town with her kid. After the move, the kid finds Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. And then Scott decided that the problem with this script was that the reason for this kid to go to Freddy's and have misadventures was too forced. It also didn't help that he just did not care about any of the characters. This script apparently was going to be the script for a while because the script didn't have any big flaws, but Scott decided we deserved better. The Ghost Tracker script is exactly what you think it is. Ghost hunters go to Freddy's, and then, like in almost all of these scripts, Scott decided to not go with this script for two reasons. First, it just dove way too far into the hunters' backstories that did not even connect to Freddy Fazbear's. Second, there was no real connection to Freddy's except, oh, this place is haunted? Let's go hunt. Verdict, a strong connection between protagonist and Freddy's was needed. Lesson learned. Now, the Insane script is my favorite out of this ball pit. Although it's another Ghost Hunter story, this one's a bit different. It's not about Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, but it's about Circus Baby's Pizza World! It involved the Funtime animatronics, obviously, underground ball pit tunnels, and apparently had the marionette Alpha Revenge. Scott decided this was not the right script because it went too far into adventure-type movies and action-type movies. I believe if you would do something like this, but actually make it dark and scary, it would be an awesome movie. But it should not be the first FNAF movie. That should go to the Big Bear himself. It should be like a spin-off FNAF movie. I really hope we do eventually see the Funtime animatronics on the big screen. They're some of my favorite from the franchise. And now the Mike script. I'll let Scott explain this in his own words. Basic setup. This makes sense. Why didn't I think of this before? Problems. Actually, this is a good mix. It has the best pieces from all the previous screenplays. Not really any problems here. All the right characters, all the right motivations, all the right stakes. Verdict? Yeah. We're gonna go with this one. It's fun, it's scary, and it has a great central story. Alright, so on to the bad news. The bad news is that there will not be any more screenplays to add to this list since we're officially making the Mike screenplay. Filming starts in spring. But the filming did not start. Shortly after these scripts were revealed, Christopher decided to leave the project. This was unfortunate. Who could even replace him? Well, they decided to bring on Emma Tammy. Emma made these movies, which I have never heard of, but even though she's not as experienced as Christopher Columbus, she will probably do good. Actually, this is something that Marvel does all the time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, Marvel makes movies and they like to get new directors for 3 reasons. 1. They are cheaper than the John Carpenters and Christopher Nolans. 2. They will do exactly what the studios tell them. And 3. To make them big stars to promote their other movies. Soon after Emma joined the movie, we got our first casting, specifically 2 characters, Mike Schmidt and William Afton, aka the Purple Guy. First off, Mike does not even seem to be the same Mike in the games, who was later revealed not to be Mike Schmidt, but Mike Afton, the son of Purple Guy. He will be played by Josh Hutcherson, known as PETA in the Hunger Games, Walter in Zathura, A Space Adventure, and I thought he starred in more big movies than this. Weird. Well, anyways, now for the Purple Guy. Mr. Afton got many fan castings while we waited for the announcement. We got everything from Willem Dafoe to, well, that's the only one I can actually remember. Pretty much everyone wanted Dafoe to play Purple Guy. His performance as Green Goblin definitely proved he could play Purple Guy. But the person who we got might even be better. In my opinion, he is better. The purple stabby guy is gonna be played by the one and only Ultra Instinct Shaggy. That's right. The man who was so good at playing live-action Shaggy, they kept him around for the animated movies. He also played Dennis in 13 Ghosts, and Stu Marker, the first Ghostface, in the Scream movie. That's right, we're talking about the legendary Matthew Lillard. And all the memes that came from his casting are almost as good as the casting itself, which is perfect. After that, we just got so many set photos and leaked images. I could make an entire novel about how many set photos and leaked images we got. It might have even been more than Spider-Man No Way Home. Some of the most significant was this one that they used as an announcement for the Jim Henson Creature Shop being the ones making Freddy and the gang. The Jim Henson Creature Shop has made the suits and animatronics for many movies such as Happy Time Murders, The Hangover, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, The Jungle Book, The Muppets, The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Where the Wild Things Are, The Dark Crystal, Dinosaurs, Dr. Dolittle, Harry Potter, and even Batman Begins. This next photo was the very first one of all these photos, and it was just, hey, look, we're making the movie. Of course, there's all these images of the set and animatronics, but the best one by far would be this leaked image that I honestly freaked out about when I saw. The final leaked thing before the first teaser came out was this leaked trailer with Golden Freddy taking a taxi ride. That's right, guys. Taxi Freddy confirmed. Finally, after 8 years of waiting, we have all these posters, all these trailers, and even a chance to see the animatronics up close. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. First, let's take a look at these posters. First off, there are 3 different types of posters that were made for this movie. The ball pit posters, the purple light posters, and the restaurant poster. The restaurant one is the best out of the 3 types, but the purple light poster is the one you'll probably see at theaters. And the trailers are just amazing. After years of waiting, we're finally getting everything we've wanted to see in these trailers. I can only think of one thing that could make these trailers any better. Adding the Living Tombstones FNAF song in it. Oh wait, a fan did this, and it made the trailer even better. Even with the movie not out yet, it already has a bright future. With Blumhouse's low-budget production, the movie has already made back its money from movie theaters and streaming rights alone. As far back as when Warner Brothers held the rights to this movie, they were planning a trilogy. And seeing that Matthew Lillard has signed up for a 3-movie deal with FNAF, it seems to still be a trilogy. Also, did I mention that the director, Emma, said that there is a character in the movie that has been a secret up to this point? I think it might be the puppet or Henry. And they also sprinkled a little bit of FNAF YouTubers into this movie as well. With all the fans of this movie eagerly waiting, the appeal of the trailers to non-fans, and the success of recent video game movies, FNAF seems certain to be a huge success. All 3 of them that are planned. And hopefully will become a cult classic. From a bad script with Warner Brothers to Jason Blum himself saying that the movie is coming along, it's a miracle that this film even exists. But on October 27th of 2023, the movie will be released both in theaters and on Peacock for the world to see. Mr. Blum said that the reason they decided to put it on Peacock at the same time was so fans can go back and do what they do best with FNAF. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. Thanks for watching.